Okay, let's salute the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. You are at the Infrastructure Oversight Committee. Today's Wednesday, February 21st, 6:30 p.m. We're going to get right down to business, organizational. We welcome new FinCom Representative Christopher Thatcher to our lovely committee. Ready to get to work. Do you know everybody on here, Christopher? Roger?
Roger Fernandez,
Jerry Bettino.
Sure.
Bob Bailey.
Bob Daly, Steve Watercoat.
You know me.
You know Manning? And Jim Hartnett, of course, right? Okay, we'll move on to the approval of minutes, the meetings of January 24th and February 12th.
Okay, so your clerk managed to do the minutes of January 24th, which was the
Big meeting.
big meeting at the auditorium. It ended up 5 pages. So the meeting on February 12th was really a presentation to the Board of Selectmen, but because there were 2 people making the presentation and 2 members of this committee on the Board of Selectmen, and he wasn't sworn in yet, we were a quorum, so we had to post it. But it's small, but I still have to get it out of the computer and get it on paper.
That's fine.
But today we have the minutes of January 24th.
Anybody ready to move them? You need more time?
I'm ready to move them.
Mr. Dale moved them. Do we have a second? Seconded by Jerry. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And abstention? Abstention by Chris. It wasn't legal yet.
So we are, so it was 5-0.
Abstention. It wasn't official. Okay, upcoming meeting dates and issues between now and May. We'll need to hold one more meeting. We discussed it just before the meeting. Well, we talked about dates just before the meeting started, and we are looking at Wednesday, March 13th for our next meeting. That work for everybody?
Yes.
March 13th, everybody? Okay, so that'll be the next day, 6:30, Maury, or 6?
Bob, are you in Boston that day? We hold meetings at 6:30 to give you an extra,
So 6:30?
a grace
Yes.
period.
All right, 6:30.
6:30 would be most appropriate.
So 6:30, March 13th will be our next meeting. Okay, we're gonna move right into our business, the betterment policy established. We need to formally establish the sewer betterment policy to present to the select board. Mr. Dale, go ahead, you guys wanna?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Roger Fernandez will present.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, just want to recognize, I've added Chris to the slide, so you're on it now, Chris.
We got Chris on there, good.
Yeah.
He's actually not at large, he's FinCom, Finance Committee.
Oh, okay.
So you'll
Let's
have
make that
to,
change for the next one, Chris.
Yeah.
No worries, no worries.
So today we just wanted to touch a little bit upon the sewer betterments. One of the last slides also not shown here is we have an overall project schedule we want to share with the group and the audience. So initially we wanted just to introduce the terminology so that everyone understands what exactly we're talking about. So when we say funding allocation in the slide or going forward, we're referring to the total cost of the project split between a town-wide debt exclusion and a specific charge to the property owners who benefit from the improvement, known as a betterment assessment. And that split is going to be contingent upon our target, we'll talk about that a little more, but upon our target EDU value. The betterments themselves are charges for improvements that increase property value, which are attached as liens on the property once operational at the property. Project costs are shared among benefiting property owners through special assessments that will be paid over a period of 20 years. And of course, the debt exclusion is a temporary increase in the property tax above the normal tax levy limit, specifically approved by voters to fund a particular project or a debt service, and it expires once the debt is paid off.
Roger, before we get too deep, unless you're gonna explain it in another slide, the lien part probably get people nervous. Is there a way for them to say, well, what commercial might want to pay cash up front or whatever?
Yeah.
There'll be that option too, right?
Yeah, it's a great point, Mr. Chairman. So the option is on the table if the property owner would like to pay the assessment up front, they are able to do that. Yep. And for most folks, we're not giving financial advice, but for most folks, once we know what the interest rate is, you have 30 days to either pay it off completely, or you automatically are notified that an assessment is coming. So a general benefit facility includes large-scale items like pump stations and main sewer lines that are necessary for the sewer system to function as a whole. So in the case of Route 6, we have 4 pump stations. Those pump stations are not going to just serve the folks on Route 6. They're going to serve any future connections that come into that main line. So those are referred to general benefits because it's going to benefit everyone on Route 6 as well as any future expansion. Without those pump stations, future expansion is not possible.
Roger, could I ask a question on that? So as we're aware, this backbone has been sized, and like we're replacing the line from the White's pump station to Fall River for the capacity of the whole town.
Yes.
So would that whole main not be considered as a benefit to the
It
whole
would.
town?
It would, yep. Yep, you can consider that whole main as a benefit to the town, yep. So a special benefit facility are the smaller sewer pipes that, and connections that serve individual properties. So if you're in a cul-de-sac, at a dead end, and one gravity line runs up your street, and you have to provide service connections up to the property lines, that's exclusive to that neighborhood. The main is not, it's a general benefit, as is the pump stations. So that would technically be referred to as a special benefit, serving a particular smaller sewer network. The costs associated with connecting to the sewer system and decommissioning existing septic systems or cesspools are not included in the betterment charges. Property owners are responsible for these additional expenses separately. The cost allocation will aim to balance the cost between the betterment fees for the properties directly benefiting and the town-wide support. The project will provide long-term advantages for the entire town, such as increased tax revenue, environmental benefits, which I think have been talked about extensively, and general benefit facilities, as Mr. Soares mentioned. So, Mass General Law, Chapter 83, tells us how we can assess betterments. In Chapter 83, Section 15. So we're recommending that the town adopt a unit-uniform method or uniform unit method. This method involves appropriating the total cost of the sewer project among the properties that currently use or could potentially use sewer system in the future. The division of the cost is based on the number of land equivalent sewer dwelling units. And we want to emphasize so that if you do not have a property, a physical structure on your property, and it's just a lot with building capacity, those properties will also be assessed as part of this betterment. So the methodology breaks the assessments into 2 categories and then 4 subcategories. We have residential, developed, residential, undeveloped, non-residential, developed, and developed and non-residential, undeveloped. In crafting the policy for assessing betterment charges, it was essential to consider the diverse nature of properties along the improved area. The proposed betterment charge policy considers the variety of properties affected, including residential and non-residential, as well as developed and non-developed land. So Route 6 is very unique if you were to look at other communities and their betterments and what they've done. A lot of those are just residential projects. It's a lot less complicated, I would say. Where here we've got to consider all these different existing conditions as part of the betterment. So again, the statute requires that we define the betterment process, and in this case, again, it's an equivalent sewer dwelling unit, ESU or EDU, those are synonymous. It's a standard measure used in municipal planning and engineering to estimate the sewage discharge typical of a single-family residence. Under this method, each single-family residence is expected to pay around $10,000, which is equivalent to 1 EDU. So a resident, a non-commercial or a residential property with 1 dwelling unit under this approach is going to pay approximately approximately $10,000. In contrast, the non-residential property, which may generate more wastewater than a single-family home, could be allocated multiple EDUs, leading to a proportionally higher contribution towards the cost.
Roger, could,
Yep.
so, the residential sewer betterment of $10,000, and if they put a lien on it, could you explain how that is paid for, or can be paid for?
So as the chair indicated, you're notified, the lien can be paid for, you'll be provided notification of how much that is. In the case of a residential property, or commercial for that matter, you can pay that up right when you're notified. If you don't act on that within 30 days, it automatically falls into an assessment.
So
Which
you
is,
paid on the taxes,
yeah.
and what do you think that would be coming out to roughly for, like, so?
We do, let me pull that up, I have that on a different slide, I can tell you. So we did do a tax impact analysis based on the allocation model that we're using here. And we do know what the townwide levy would look like, what the betterment cost would be. That would be about $800 a year at $10,000 per EDU, not per property, per EDU. Remembering that some properties might be assigned multiple EDUs. So for each EDU, it's roughly $800, and then then I can tell you what the tax-wide, levy would look like based on your assessed value of your home. But if you're a bettered property, you're gonna see the betterment fee, if you will. And then you're gonna pay your taxes, obviously, and that tax is also gonna represent what.
Yeah, because my concern is like these people with the small lots, and
Yeah.
that seniors that can't afford it, so they can understand what their cost would be to stay in their home.
Right, right. But we do have something else that regarding the seniors, so I think that's a good question. So with respect to the methodology for residential, so a sewer unit determination for residential or assisted living developed properties look as follows. Single-family dwelling shall comprise one sewer unit, again, $10,000 roughly, and multiple family dwellings or assisted living shall be comprised of one sewer unit per dwelling unit. So, for example, a duplex or two-family unit would be charged 2 EDUs. And an EDU, again, is roughly $10,000, plus or minus. And I'll say that the reason why I keep saying plus or minus is it's going to be contingent upon the final bids that come in, the actual cost of the contract, and we're refining some of the upland calculations with client fellows. So we feel pretty good about the range, and we'll explain that in a minute.
So, that's an important point. If you look at how these, we had a desire, a goal, so that in every project, the EDU value would be constant. So someone wouldn't be paying, if two single-family houses were next to one another, they wouldn't pay different amounts. They would pay the same amount. And at first we thought we would be able, even though this EDU method is the common method for assessing betterment charges. And at first we thought that we could fix it at $10,000, so it would be absolutely fixed. And as it turns out, you can't do that. And so what we've been doing is, in some towns, what they do, the common method of dealing with that is each sewer contract has a percentage. So if you look at, I know, at least in part of Falmouth, they did a 70-30 split. So they set the percentage which betterments are going to carry and the percentage of what the general tax levy would be. And then while the percentage is fixed, the amount that each contract pays varies because some contracts are large and 30% of a bigger number is a bigger betterment than 30% of a smaller number. And what we've been trying to do is to aim around that, $10,000, and also around a 20-80 split in which the betterments would be the smaller portion because of the nature of the community, and there's a larger older homes, smaller lots. The impact, we tried to reduce the impact of providing the sewer and water. So at first we were going to have $10,000 sort of fixed, and now we're varying the percentages so it comes out about that. And when we crank through the first, if we did the whole trunk, I think it was $9,600 or $9,800. So we've been aiming at having this annual cost and the quarterly tax bill be something that was reasonable in proportion to the taxes that people currently pay. So that was the goal. The goal was keep it reasonable and make it equitable. And so as we ended up, we're varying we will vary the percentage of betterments each contract pays so that we're in this $10,000 range.
So regarding undeveloped properties, for undeveloped residential properties, the assessment of the sewer system cost is determined by assessing equivalent dwelling units based on the highest potential residential development allowable under the current zoning regulations and districting. So I just want to preface that by saying, so again, we have to apply by statute an EDU method, and when we apply the highest potential build-out or development scenario, it does not mean that that's what's going in. It just means that that's what the potential is, and that's what the assessment is based on. So in example 2, if we imagine a piece of land that hasn't been developed yet, we look at the most extensive type of building that can be constructed there. Considering the local zoning rules, we find it could accommodate a 10-bedroom assisted living facility. Again, it doesn't mean a 10-bedroom assisted living facility is going there, but that's what it could accommodate. So that would mean that that property will be assessed 10 EDUs, taking into account the zoning requirements for a 30% open space requirement and 5,500 square feet of property for each bedroom. So we know the size of the property, we can subtract 30% of that for open space, then we're left with the value of how much land is left, we divide that by 5,500, and that's how many bedrooms you can fit on that property. And so for units you can fit on that property, so multiply that times one EDU of $10,000. Now we understand how many EDUs that property would be assigned. For non-residential, we need to take a different approach. We need to look at what's referred to as the floor area ratio. It's a measurement used in urban planning to determine the allowable building area on a given plot of land. This refers to the total area of all floors in the building, and it includes all covered areas of the building. A low-density FAR example is 0.25, meaning that the building is not densely packed on the land. To give you an example, the Hampton Inn on Route 6, as a comparison, has a higher FAR of 0, that's what a 0.62 looks like. Indicating a more extensive use, the 0.2 indicates a more extensive use of the land area for building space. For the recommended betterment method, we apply an FAR of 0.25 as the constant. 0.25 is used to calculate the building area, and in turn it's used to determine the wastewater flow. So, and you might ask, why 0.25, why not 0.62? Well, you have to keep in mind that some of these properties might not be developed. So is it equitable to sort of charge someone a hotel on their land those types of projects, when they come forward, there are other means to recoup those large developments that might come forward. We can talk about that in a bit. So, again, we're applying a constant of 0.25. So in this example, if we have a 100,000 square foot lot, whether developed or not, we would multiply that by the FAR of 0.25. We end up with the result of a building being able to fit on that lot of about 25,000 square feet. The 25,000 square feet is divided by 1,000 and multiplied by 50 gallons to give us 1,250 gallons. Why 1,000 square feet and why 50 gallons? Well, Title V in CMR tells us that value, and it tells us what a retail store, and we're applying a typical retail store as a basis to determine how much flow we would get out of that property if it were built up, for example, for a vacant lot even. So then we take the 1,250, we divide that by 180. The 180 is a value that's used typically for a single-family resident. It's, again, equal to an EDU. You can make the argument that it's equal to an EDU in terms of use. And we end up with 6.9 EDUs. We don't apply fractional amounts to an EDU, so we would just round that up to 7 EDUs. So Bob mentioned this part of it, and and if you recall, we talked about the terminology, we talked about funding allocation, which pocket is the money coming from. Again, betterment versus a town-wide levy. The cost per EDU, using a recommended uniform method policy, requires that we allocate a certain amount to a town-wide allocation and a betterment allocation if we want to back into that $10,000 number. So we're trying to make those percentages so we end up with something close to $10,000. So the betterment fees for the sewer project will be set with a target of approximately, keep emphasizing, approximately $10,000 per single family resident, which is equal, again, to 1 EDU, achieved by sharing the cost between the town and the properties that benefit. This ensures that individual households will not exceed this limit for the current project, although future projects may adopt different funding models. So this shouldn't be viewed as a one application fits every single project that might take place in the next 20 years. But for this one, any town meeting actions will reflect the requirements for this particular project. So when we look at just the betterments, how much of the betterment contribution is coming from the different types of uses? Remember, we said residential, developed and not developed. We said non-residential, developed and not developed. And we'll see that in the graphs, in blue we have developed residential, in orange we have undeveloped residential, in gray we have developed non-residential, and then we have the final yellow there is undeveloped non-residential. So the 64.5%, 64.6% is the percent of the 20%. So it's not 64% of the total project, it's 64% of what's being bettered on that project.
And Roger, this is for the 3 contracts along Route 6.
Yes, sir.
So this is for the 3 contracts, which would be the backbone of the system, the real spine of the system. And if you look at the character of Route 6, we have a lot of commercial properties, so the commercial properties end up paying more. It's just the nature of the land use. If we went down a side street that's all residential, that would go away, and the residential number would be larger. This is really a function of what Route 6 looks like.
So that's pretty much the betterment approach, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if you want to jump right into the schedule.
I don't see anybody stepping up to the mic, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a question.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ron.
Excuse me, Ron Michelle. on that betterment tax, that's pretty much set up for, per square footage, say, or linear footage on a lot. And that has nothing to do with any tie-ins. That's just gonna be taxed for usage.
It's going to be, the betterment assessment is going to be based on the type of, the type of structure that's on the building.
And there's gonna be 4 subway stations, sub-pump stations out that way. And what I was thinking is these folks are willing to cooperate with these stations. Can the betterment tax be waived for those that have the substations on their property? They're gonna be giving up some usage. They're gonna be doing something good for the town.
That's a really good question, and the answer to that is, it's not because
It'll
we
be
don't want to,
negotiated.
the law does not allow us to do
Yeah.
that.
So
And that's
nothing
not-
can be done with
We asked
that.
the same question to town council, and they said they can't.
Because one of the owners is here in the room tonight. And, she's willing to work along with this project to make all this happen. And instead of her being accorded, which would be just her, I was thinking maybe the betterment tax, I was hoping the betterment tax on the 4 stations, and this way these people, one hand washes the other, kind of we work together,
So Roger, like talking about the pump stations and what about the appraisals on the pump stations? So when they're looking at this land and they're appraising the pump station, I mean, is the value of the land before it has sewer for what they pay them for the taking part of it, or is it after it has sewer on it? And
The value would be as it is today. That's the value, current value.
Not unfortunate.
But did the appraisal come back for the first pump station at White's to give us, because it's probably the same size as.
It hasn't come back yet. We actually have a site visit this week or the beginning of next week, so it should be soon.
Yeah, because she'd like to know too.
Yes.
I mean, but since Lori's here too, because there's been some little bit of confusion on what these pump stations are gonna look like on a property. So her son's actually seen some on the place where he's working, and she was concerned because of the way they had it fenced off and how much was above the ground. And I was trying to explain to her that some of the, I haven't looked in too deep into the design that was given to me, but, the manhole pot, is there a way where we don't fence in as much, we just fence in maybe the generator and the house that's above the ground, because it's all, a lot, a couple of different types. It's not a big, I don't know what they were showing in your land, was it like 30 by 30 or something
Is
like
there
that?
any engineer here that designed it?
No, the engineer is not here.
Who was here last meeting?
But Bob's pretty familiar with what these things look like, so maybe you could add
I don't
a
know,
little
my
bit
son
to this.
also, because he worked in that field, he said they could put it underneath the ground, the whole thing. Even the, whatever that Prussian, whatever tank thing or whatever you have to,
Yeah, it is, almost all of it is underground, except there's electric control panels, there's an emergency generator, there are things that are sitting in the top, and it is fenced in. And you will see, the entrance into the pump station, but the pump station itself is in the ground.
the pump station is, but that, whatever,
It's still got a shelter over it. You still got access to the
Yeah, how
pumps.
big is that?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing, how big is that unit and all that stuff, because he said even those can,
Is it a 5 by 5 or a 10 by 10 lot that's
Like-
above the ground?
Is it the wind water one?
One of Lori's,
Yeah.
one of Lori's concerns too is, like,
Yeah,
'cause this is an
sorry.
area, she has limited parking, okay, and this is in an area where they use an employee, it's an employee parking section. But one of the things that I was thinking too is, in the design of the pump station, I don't know if we've gone that far yet, but it looks to me like to get an easement and put that pump station there, I know we're applying for utility access permits in Mass Highway, but there's gonna have to be a curb cut permit for this pump station section. So I would imagine on what's followed on other properties in town, they're gonna have to improve the whole front of it, because this is a pretty tight piece of property right here, and they're gonna have to improve the whole front of that site. And the way I look at it, there's no way without doing the whole parking lot to the front of the building to accommodate it for this part, so.
and there's no way they can put it next door, right? The guy has, that's why I don't understand why they put it where mine is. I don't understand engineering, so. Right next door, they have these towers that they lease out
Oh,
for
where
like
Bell
100
Houses?
years.
Yeah.
Put it right there, because he can't do anything with his property to begin with. And they have to have access too. I mean, the whole thing, I don't know, just
Right,
didn't
Roger,
make
did
sense
they
to
look
me.
at the- where Velpas is, next door to her, the other side of bread and cheese?
The whole thing is all leased up, you can't do
Well,
anything with it, not leased.
When we were in that meeting with Kleinfeld, because we looked at this point, because now we had some pushback, and I got to the point where one of our problems with this is it is designed in that location already. So even at that point, then we said, okay, it's, you know, what's it gonna cost us to move it, but then it's designed to the point where the utility company has designed the power to it, and that's another issue that takes time and a long time to do it, and it's pretty, and then I said, well, because the next pump station down the road, every neighbor said, hey, I would love to have it in front of me, I'd love to have it in front of me, and then the one with the vacant lot was complaining, and it's, I looked at it at that point too, and it's the same situation, the electrical's already designed, and
I don't know, there's plenty of electrical over there.
Yeah, next door. All right, let's see what we can find out and try to get, Lori.
I mean, the other thing too would be like to find out what that's, you know, you're gonna have to follow Mass Highway standards for the curb cut for the pump station.
Yeah.
So then we're gonna know what they're gonna need to do for parking and drainage. I mean, the way I'm looking at it, what I see, it's gonna be a little bit of an inconvenience, but they're gonna be able to park over the pump,
Yeah, we'll work.
over the wet well.
Lori, for the record, is it
It'll be
Lori
tight.
Camaro or Lori Camaro Roy now?
Lori Camaro.
Lori Camaro, for the record.
Right
Owner of Windwater. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, just so we want to notice, because she's still. All right, anything else to add on that? All right, go ahead, when you're ready, Roger.
I think the only other thing we wanted the committee had asked, and I think we have a pretty good handle, I think, as a group regarding the schedule. Behind that sort of blow up of that schedule, I just sort of summarized some of the key points. And then behind that, you can see sort of a super detailed schedule. But in any case, everything, we've got the Mass Highway access permits that we expect to have. We already have one for the first section, but we expect to have it all, the entire project completed by the second week in March. Kleinfelder and the team is diligently working on trying to finalize the plan, so hopefully by the third week in March, that'll be completed. Obviously the work and the discussions regarding the survey and legal descriptions associated with the full pump stations, hopefully have that wrapped up by the end of March. Concom, so the team had to go back and issue notices, and but in any case, first week in April, hopefully that'll be wrapped up. And then we just list some of the other key dates regarding, hopefully I got that right, April, I think I might have the wrong date, but in any case, April for town ballot vote. And then right after town ballot vote, the objective is to have a bid in hand going into annual town meeting. So that we'll have the bid openings and then going again to town meeting with a bid in hand. And that way, at that point, we'll know exactly what the costs are. And one big milestone was the interbasin transfer request for determination of insignificance. That meeting, actually I think that might have even got pushed up, but on the outside, that meeting's being held in early May. And then we've got some of the land easement and eminent domain issues that have to be closed up by the second week in May. And
That would be me.
that would be you, Lori.
I'd like to get back to that.
And then hopefully, if everything's in place and all things look good, we'll have something to go before the Board of Selectmen with respect to entering into contract with the contractor at the end of May. So you can see that there are none of the items in the critical path that would prevent, from a permitting schedule, that would prevent the project from sort of being on track so that we have something shortly thereafter town meeting. And hopefully that all comes back the way we're hoping, but that's what it's looking like right now, schedule-wise. Looking pretty good, knock on wood.
All right, and we can relay to Kleinfelder, Mr. Camara's concerns, and see as much as they can put on the.
When can we put me on to discuss my issues?
Why don't I can give you contact information before we leave today, and then
send you all the information. He'll
And
contact
then
me.
the other question, and get back to the betterment fees and not being able to?
All right, why don't you go up to the mic so people at home can hear you? It's not, we're not live right now, but we're gonna keep playing this so people get.
Live on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, on
Why
YouTube,
the people
sorry.
who have the pumping stations as another benefit to them, because they're not getting I'm not getting a benefit, to be honest. But the betterment fee, if they were, you said you can't give it to that person who has the pumping station?
Can't waive it if it's on their property.
It's law, we just need to follow.
Why is-
Unless we went for special legislation.
Why
Sounds
is
more like
that
if we
law,
leased
though?
it for the betterment fee.
Why is that law?
Well, it's an
though?
easement, isn't it? So it's not really purchased, it's just we buy the use.
Yeah, but
Is
they-
that right?
So we asked the same,
The property owners are all entitled to just compensation, so they'll, that,
Wouldn't that be compensation?
well, the fact that, I don't, I'm not an attorney, but I don't believe we can waive the betterment charges. But, there's other considerations in, what you get paid for the land.
Yeah, but they're gonna assess it today as the value today, not once the water and sewer goes back.
No, it is,
that's another-
it is, the assessments are as of today's value.
Can any improvements be made on the property, say, in their case, maybe asphalt some areas for them, like Mr. Saw said, get the front up to state compliance?
Yeah,
Something like
to the extent that, I don't know the site, I don't know exactly what the design is for the pump stations, so but can we make accommodations
Yeah.
and turning the gates and turning stuff? Yeah, we can, we'll do all those kinds of things that we can do.
She's been here her whole life, she can get people to shut this project down on us.
But what I'm getting at on that point too is, we have the pump stations designed. I saw that in the last meeting.
Yeah.
So, in designing the pump stations, to be in accordance with, like, our trunk line is in Route 6 and coming off of Route 6, but the pump station is now gonna be on a piece of property, a private piece of property that abuts Route 6, that we're gonna get an easement for. So the requirement for that is that once we have a completed town-approved design, we have to apply to Mass Highway for a curb cut. And then we're gonna have to meet Mass Highway standards. So as far as drainage, not making drainage come into the road. I mean, this site right now, parking lots, Route 6, everything runs right into the Bread and Cheese Brook. So I think it would be prudent, since the design is all done there, to make sure that our pump station design is ready to apply for the curb cut permit to build the pump station. And then when you get to the next meeting, Lori would know what the front of the property is gonna look like.
Yeah, makes sense.
And the size of the unit that's be upstairs.
Yeah.
They call in some big trucks from like that property.
Yeah. All right, before you leave, Mr. Mayor, just give Roger your contact. I don't know if I have your email or my email or not. If you got one of your cards, and he'll keep you in the loop, and we'll try to appease, make everybody happy as much as we can legally. All right, we have anything else to add on that, Jerry?
I'd like to ask, is it intended that we're gonna buy this property where the pumping station is gonna go? Or are we going to be leasing it? Or are we going to be only paying the difference in the value of the property from when the thing? I do not believe that legally you're gonna be able to buy a chunk of somebody's property. Because that's subdividing a piece of
Easement,
property.
we're taking an easement, actually.
That's what I'm saying, we're taking it, but I don't think that you can make a lot different unless there's exemptions in the rules for these kinds of utilities. But that is a subdivision of a property if it's their own thing, no?
They're gonna take an easement.
You're gonna take
An
what?
easement over the property.
Utility easement.
Well,
So the property owners will continue to own the property, we will just purchase an easement, a permanent easement.
That's what I'm asking, you're not buying the property,
No,
you're
we're
not
just
buying a lot
buying
of
an
that
easement.
property.
Easement,
So,
correct.
because I think the impression is that we're buying a piece of that property. We're basically buying the right to use that forever.
Correct. We're saying that correctly, right? So we all understand that?
And the
Okay.
thing with the Mass Highway curb cut permit, so when we're building that on that piece of property, we need to follow their standards, so that design has to go out. We could do it without having the actual permit, but once the design is complete, our obligation before we build the pump station is to submit it to Mass Highway. So we need to make sure that our design is, and I know the site very well, our design is compliant to Mass Highway, and that will give Lori all the information she needs to know on what we are obligated to do. I mean, if we send it to Mass Highway, because it's happened to us on the planning board, something goes by and it doesn't meet Mass Highway standards, they're gonna change it. You know, right now, you know, it's pre-existing, but as soon as you start doing work on that site, if they cut a tree, they're supposed to apply for it, you know, so put a pump station on there, they have to apply for the curb cut.
Sounds good.
Well, we're also dealing with a new design of Route 6 potentially as well. We don't know what they have in mind.
Well,
for
that's
that.
why we have to design our property in
Work
accordance
with
with their
them.
specifications, submit it to them, and they're gonna say yes or no, and it goes from there. They ultimately have the last say on it.
Yeah.
But
All right, Mr. Cole?
In this memorandum, you spell out the two methods of the fixed uniform rate method and the uniform unit method, and you say the latter is recommended, and I'm wondering who has recommended that? Is that Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Yes.
Could you explain, I mean, is it because it's just easier, or what is the reason for that recommendation?
It is the most common assessment method, you know, that municipalities are using.
Okay, but it's also the closest thing to a poll tax, in that it's a uniform charge on every property and makes no distinction as to the value of the property or the wealth of the owners or anything. Whereas at least the uniform rate method does take account of the frontage and the area of the property, which may have some relationship to the relative wealth of the property. I think it may be the most commonly used, but I think it's probably the easiest. And if it's easy, I think it could generate a lot of trouble. That's because it doesn't take any account of the different conditions of the property owners. Anyway,
No,
Dave,
just,
could you explain to me what kind of trouble you think it would create?
pardon me?
Could you explain to me what kind of trouble you think it would create?
Well, I think that somebody on a little teeny property of very low value is going to be assessed the same $10,000 betterment as somebody right next to him who may have a house that's worth 5 times his value. And it may say, why isn't he being charged more than I am?
The Dartmouth is done by linear foot.
But
You're right, we just said. Dartmouth is done by linear frontage.
frontage and
Yeah,
area.
Dartmouth does their betterment by frontage, not necessarily the lot
So
size.
one of the things that so I'm not dismissing what you're saying, but one of the complexities with Route 6, and unlike Dartmouth and some other applications where it's just strictly residential, and you don't have a mix of commercial, developed, undeveloped, all these different types of scenarios, applying that approach becomes unequitable, it becomes less fair, it becomes, I can assure you that this is not the easiest way to figure this stuff out.
It is not.
It's hugely, I don't want to overstate, I mean, but I will tell you that it was quite an effort and complexity to try to make sure that this committee and the group worked to make sure that this was very fairly applied. After that, sure, it becomes subjective, but some of those other types of projects you're referring to, are much easier because you're just dealing with mostly a residential project.
and I'd like to just point out too here that we are asking the residents to pay only about 20, 22, 23% of the project, and that the 77% or up to 80% would be paid generally by the other property owners in town. So
It be
It may not
paid by
be-
those residents and the other property owners.
So the other residents, the general residents, who are not actually going to benefit from the water and sewer, are going to pay, 80% of the betterment, or 80% of the project. So it's just a way, we're not trying, we're trying to help, some of the most needy people who live in the northern part of town by having the rest of the town pay for 80+% of the project, so.
Okay, but I'm suggesting that the allocation of the property owners within this district is not
Yeah, I
an
understand
equitable
that.
allocation, and the property tax itself, in general, is not very equitable. And so we're kind of saying to the voters, vote for this debt exclusion in this project, which are going to generate 2 streams of property tax revenue for the next 20 years that are going to be unevenly allocated, distributed to the lower income households. And your 2/3 of the voters in town vote for it. I think it's politically, we saw what happened on the override. I think you face the same problem there.
All right, thank you. Anything else to add before we move on? All right, moving on. The outreach plans for the ballot box that's coming up in April, it's only like
Steve,
I'm sorry, go
there's
ahead,
one
man.
more thing on betterment. I mean, because we only touched on the sewer betterment. I just want to make it clear that what's going on with the water betterment.
Nothing.
They gotta pay for the tie-in, but there's no.
So residents will have no betterment for water.
Okay.
And
Yes, Mr. Moore.
I just can't have that comment be the last comment, because I think this committee has done an awful lot to be progressive and to recognize the needs of the people in this neighborhood. And I think if you wanted to charge people by what the fair cost is, you would put a water meter on every single house. And that, of course, is not going to happen because it's impractical and very expensive. But that is the way you measure the cost of water use and sewer use.
We haven't had good meters.
And you're not going to do that. But what you have done, just to summarize, is you've said the normal distribution is 30%. You're not doing 30%, you're doing 20%. And the normal betterment cost in other communities is $20,000. And you said, we're not going to make it $20,000. We're going to make it $10,000. And so people can argue about different ways to create a formula and say, and they will do that no matter how you do that. And they will say, this person is paying something. You'll always have that. But the main thing is you created a system that made the rate half of what it would be in other places. And you did that because of who lives in this area, and you should be commended for that, I think.
Just state your name for the record, we know who you are.
Yeah, John Bullard, I live at 5 next way.
Thank you. Before Mr. Sullivan comes up, we just want to clarify, there is going to be meters, correct? There just won't be a betterment for going by their house.
There'll be water meters.
Yeah, there'll be water meters, just to clarify, there will be water meters, they will have to pay a fee for that, but there will not be any betterment fees when they go by. Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Mike Sullivan. I'm representing the Westport River Watershed Alliance. I just want to say, we rise in support of what you're all doing here, and I think the 80-20 thing is really something that helps out quite a bit. But could you speak to tonight, I don't know, maybe this isn't the Board of Selectmen meeting, but could you speak to the degree to which we expect grants or funding to offset this bonding that we're going to seek? Because we're going to, we're trying to help you folks.
We have tried to get grants rather than loans. Grants are better than loans. We have been unsuccessful with 2 Mass Works grants. We've been more successful with Representative Keating because we have a $960,000 earmark, federal earmark, that will come and has apparently passed, miraculously passed some kind of vote in the House of Representatives, and it's now at the Senate. We might not get the cash right away. It might be a year or so, but Keating is stuck with us. Warren and Markey on the Senate side did not. And, you know, to be honest with Senator Warren claiming to have brought $50 billion of federal money to Massachusetts, I would hope that we could get some of that. So we have to rework our initiative with our state senators, with our federal senators. So we do have that $1 million coming, but that's the only thing that we know of, other than the fact that our state senator, Michael Rodericks, did get us $1 million earmark from ARPA to get this whole project going. And that there's $2.8 million of Bristol County ARPA money, and the people running the ARPA committee seem to agree that we will get $1 million of that. So that's $2 million of ARPA plus $1 million from this House of Representatives earmark. That's $3 million. But we'll keep working to get grants because that will lower the cost for all of us.
Well, that's what I was getting at, Murray. If our intent is to pursue additional grants and funding, and to some extent you all are committing to cutting into that bond and
Yes.
paying back that bond prematurely or early.
Yes.
And that's the point, is as we prepare to inform our members and persuade the public that this is a good plan to go forward, I think it's just an important thing to let everybody know that we will be pursuing money.
Very definitely.
And that's going to offset, so that's great.
Very
Yep.
much.
Appreciate it.
Want to talk about your PFAS loop too?
Yeah, I was just wondering what's happening with that. Did they notify us yet?
Still waiting to hear. From the state, they're waiting to hear from the EPA. We had applied for a $3.7 or $3.8 million PFAS grant to extend the water along Route 6 from its existing terminus and to loop the water from Route 6 down Osborne Street to the Macumber School and then down Gifford Road back to Route 6. We heard we got some very encouraging feedback, but we still don't have a check yet, so we're waiting on that.
Did you ask?
And so we will continue to do that, and even in the state revolving fund loans, depending on what the economic character of the area served, there is so-called debt forgiveness, which all comes off the top, so that we all of this that we're talking about, the 80-20 split, it is only the split. It is only the local cost right off the top of the project. If we got in a $31 million project, if we got $1 million worth of grants, it would become, the state would pay the $1 million, and we would only have to raise the $31 million, right? $30 million. So it's the way it works, and we have. It really is not true that everybody pays, every property pays the same number of EDUs. It is related, it is not related to the value of the property, because essentially the benefit derived to a house that's worth $300,000 is essentially the same benefit that derives to a house that's worth $400,000. That is, you get a water service and you drink whatever you drink, the benefit, or a sewer service, the benefit is you now have the sewer service, and it's that equivalent. for the properties that can be divided, for the properties that have bigger frontages, the properties that can make 5 lots, they get charged 5 benefits. So it isn't true that there's no assessment of the development potential. It's the same is true on the residential, on the commercial properties. An assessment has been made of what is the development potential under the zoning, and they don't pay if it is a vacant used car lot, but it's 10 acres, most of them much smaller. But if you had that as an example, they don't pay 1 EDU because there's a vacant building. You know, they are assessed for the development potential of the lot, and that's the assessment that's made against them. So it is both equitable, and it makes distinction between properties, but not on the property's assessed value, but on the property's development potential.
Potential, yeah. Mr. Bashano?
Yeah, on the request for the Mass Works grant, now we put in for it twice, we were denied twice, but we were denied twice for the same reason, correct?
Right.
And what was that reason, to make it clearly?
Because there was no development project ready to go forward.
Right, and so when I would look at something like that, I'd probably come back to saying, like I said earlier, not enough points of interest. This time we plan on going right down the entire trunk line. And so what I was hoping is the Mass Works grant for the trunk line could get put in and looked at before April. And that would work along with, like Mike was saying, with financing. The watershed group can have something to look forward to. All the rest of the citizens as well. We were denied twice, but remember, you know, when you're at bat, 2 strikes doesn't mean you're out.
I got it. We're still here.
Okay.
We're still swinging.
Yeah, the filing on Mass Works is once a year, and it's June 1st, and we will be huddling, I think, to figure out what we're going to do for June
Did
1st.
the estimate come back for the trunk line as far as the cost for just the trunk line?
Well, the trunk line is 31 million estimated by Kleinfelder.
Gotcha.
And
So
we're
you've done
asking-
that already.
We're asking for 35 million because of, you know, possible inflation, and also these contracts have not gone out to bid yet. We don't know what those bids
So
are
we
going to
got all
look like.
the information for the, what'd you say, was it June?
June 1st for Max Works, and
So we got all the information for the application.
no, we don't.
What are we missing on that?
I've been working with the owner of that old transportation building on Borden Street, because I know he has plans to redevelop that property. Bristol Pacific owns those 2 Edgewater apartments.
Would they be willing to pay for some of that tie-in? Is that what you're working with them on? Or
We're just,
we don't really, I don't think we need to put.
we got to get the pump station and the first couple of football fields to get to Borden Street. Now, whether he pays for Borden Street or not, I don't know. We haven't gotten anywhere.
Is that part of the discussion, I should ask?
Not yet. It's very preliminary,
Because
and
I would make that priority, and of course, whatever work needs to be done to make sure that
I'm
application
trying.
is June 1st.
I'm
We're trying, we're gonna have it locked down, go ahead, man.
So, Roger, one of our earlier meetings, we were talking about Mass Works grants and the direction to go in, and I believe we had one where you said the average Mass Works grant was such, and...
$1.5 million,
Okay.
2 million in that range.
So, I understand that we have a couple, we have many commercial possibilities all the way to the end.
Yeah.
There's been people coming in talking about stuff to happen at the end also. But my thing is, on one of the projects that we should be looking for if we're going for a Mass Works grant, is, you know, we did identify the Macumber neighborhood. So, which I've done a count, and there's 300 houses in the Macumber neighborhood. We have the need for the school, that the septic system would not meet Title V standards. I mean, I don't know if we want to wait until we're going to expand the school and put another septic in there, or if we want to move forward this way. We could say, hey, we have this neighborhood, and I think we're going forward with the design of the neighborhood, and let's go for the Mass Works grant for the first pump station we want, get it in and see if we hit that pump station.
Just a little context, the MassWorks grant, and I know it's been said, I'll say it again, but it requires a private economic development partner. So when you fill out the application, the type of questions you get in that section, and by the way, we scored in the other sections as high as you could possibly score. So, if that
We
sounds
got a
like
compliment on the
bragging,
narrative of our filing.
But at any rate, that other section, the types of questions that you get is, okay, the construction project that's happening in 6 months, how many construction jobs are you creating? Once that building's up and developed, how many people are gonna be working in that building?
Mhm.
Show me a copy of the civil drawings and a copy of the construction. So it requires a level of detail that suggests that there's a private economic development project ready to go.
But that wouldn't incorporate people living in houses. That sounds more like jobs.
Correct.
So
Well, MassWorks is for
regular
economic
people on the
development.
side road
It's not
create
for-
housing, wouldn't do anything for the application.
Right. That's where, like you just said, is economic development.
It's for economic development.
So the project needs to be a project that's gonna create permanent jobs and tax revenue. So it has to be strictly commercial, it can't be residential.
Residential.
It could be housing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would be every unit on Route 6 that's willing to tie in. So the longer this plan is, the more people participate, the better it is for all the folks here, Shed, everyone else,
Yep.
and better for application.
Robbie, we need to, first to try to get at least one of the two things coming up, either the ballot or town meeting, so investors will spend the money to do the drawings that we need to get that. And that can be done before June 1st.
And that town meeting, what does it come down to, $16 per person?
For what?
As far as the financing goes to reach?
Oh,
You know,
as far as
it would be a great investment for the mountain river.
Divide 30 million by 16,000, I don't know what.
Per week, yeah.
Yeah.
15,
$15 per week, per person?
I think so.
Yeah, for how long?
20 years.
20 years?
Yeah.
20 years, yeah.
So couldn't we use some of that CPA tax?
CPC?
Yes, sorry.
No, that's just for three distinct things, and economic development's not one of
Mr.
them.
Cole's already got that spent on us.
What are the three distinct things that they can use that for?
Historical preservation, open space, and,
Recreation.
well, that's open
Housing.
space.
Housing.
Housing, I think
yeah.
it's low-income housing, isn't it? That one?
Affordable housing.
Affordable, yes.
Open space
in the-
and
Historical, those three.
In the Macomb Loop, the town owns 3 acres right on School Street. I mean, that looks like a nice CPC.
We've been trying for years to develop that, and it hasn't worked out.
Yeah, because you don't have sewer and water there.
Correct. Correct.
There's a lack of CPA funds.
And it's wetlands, but we'll.
Well, according to the plan right here, I know there's
I
definitely.
live across the street from it, and I tried to get it done, and it wouldn't get done. I live directly across the street from it.
You've lived
All
on-
right.
Yeah, so you've been trying to get
40
sewer
years.
done for how long on Route 6?
Oh,
Yeah, we're still going, we're still trying. Nothing, do not think this is a go yet, so. All right, let's keep working
We have
on
the
it.
design, Steve.
Let's keep going. Outreach plans, the ballot box, April, and town meeting in May. We need to get home the message. Did you want to elaborate?
So, yeah, I'd like to talk about outreach because we need to do more of it. We did have that January 24th meeting of the IOC up at the high school auditorium, and that was a kind of outreach for us because we had over 100 people come to that, and that was good. I think we have to have a couple more meetings in the north end near in the project area for outreach. But there, a number of other things. We have to, it's been suggested by none other than Michael Rodericks, our state senator, to hire a campaign manager, that there's, $350,000 left of his earmark, and that we should use some of that for a campaign manager. I asked Michael if he had any recommendations, and he said no. But what do you think, Roger? I mean, you're our project manager
Going on all
consultant. Do we need a campaign
There's
manager?
some sensitivity with spending money, but I'll let you.
Yes, so if, you can't spend town money on advertising or promoting a ballot question. Once the ballot question is done, you can promote town meeting, that's not an issue. But the ballot goes against the campaign finance laws, so you cannot use town
Okay.
resources to advocate for a ballot question.
So Manny, how are your yard signs coming? You got a
We got
couple,
them
you got a couple hundred of those coming?
I mean,
We're
this
definitely gonna need
doesn't
to
mean
provide
individually you
information.
can promote it, right?
Yeah, okay.
Elected officials can promote it. and
I'll,
speak in
I'll
favor of it.
contribute to the yard signs, I will.
One of the, we're gonna look to business to fund that, but one of the things we're trying to do with the yard signs is we wanna promote this sewer project, which is, it's a sewer and water project, and we have a dire need for both of them, but we wanna promote it across town as vote yes, clean water for Westport. I mean, we wanna focus that this is for clean water. It's not just to supply
that's on the
economic
slam.
development. The economic development
Yeah.
is how we're gonna help fund this and the redevelopment, but these other situations that we have and these projects, I mean, obviously, so we can't use the Mass Works grant for that, but we're gonna look into the more PFAS grant stuff and all of that. Where are we standing with, creating, the sewer enterprise fund like we have with the water?
Well, we're gonna vote on that tonight. We've gotta have
Thank you
a
for coming,
sewer.
gentlemen.
We've got a water line enterprise fund, but that's a different matter. What I'm talking about now is research. For example, I've been in constant communication with Watershed Alliance. They have advocacy committee meetings once a month, and they have other meetings. And, I've got the Westport Point Neighborhood Association. They have a general meeting. They want some of us to speak there. I've talked to Tony Vieira about B2B. We can maybe put together a slide presentation for them. But we need to hold more meetings, and we need to get more of the message out.
Right?
And,
The message that we need to get out is to the 3,000 voters.
But how?
Okay, so how are we standing with the community TV? Is
Now,
that
we're gonna use YouTube, and we have another
Yeah, but
website.
these seniors in here aren't live streaming. I mean,
Yeah.
historically, they've been on community TV that we've been down for how many months
Well, we've
now?
gotten two front-page articles in Shoreline so far.
Yeah,
and
I
Ted
wouldn't-
Hayes is-
I wouldn't be waving a flag.
We have, what, 1,000 or 1,200 subscribers in town to Shoreline, so it's something.
Well, it's definitely gonna help the mouth of the river, right?
Yep.
We know that, right?
Rob, how would you have us have informational meetings up
Well,
in
what I
your,
was thinking myself is, of course, you got the strip along Route 6 there. When we had put that sign up in front of the Mac Cumber School saying we were gonna have a sewer meeting, a lot of people saw that, We know it can help the mouth of the river. We know it can bring some services to the town. It has to be sold as a service. In other words, when gas was $1 a gallon, if I wanted a certain shirt, could I drive to New Bedford? Yes. But if there's a decent clothing store down the street, it's economically cheaper to go there, we'll go there. So it's gotta be sold as a service, and like you say, everyone's gonna have to pay for it. So usually when it's something like that, that means inside of that, there has to be something for everybody.
so bring clean water to town, that kind of thing.
Green water is what they attacked last time, but
Bring
we'll try it.
bring the sewer,
Yeah.
bring the service,
Mhm.
and bring the jobs, as one would say.
Mhm.
I mean, as a young person growing up in this town, I wouldn't say there was a lot of, great opportunities, And so, competition brings competitive pricing. And so I know people here, they don't want to overbuild the town, but we gotta add a few more things here. We gotta add a few more opportunities. It's a good chance to clean things up, and it ain't getting any cheaper every day, but there's gotta be something in it for everybody.
Mhm.
And that's the truth, and like you say, we gotta get it out there. We have to put some signs along Route 6,
Yeah.
and whites, yep, and,
Yeah. No, we definitely have to get the word out, because right now, it's not looking too good unless we get that going.
no, because time's moving too fast.
Yep.
I was hoping that mass grants work would go through, and they'd have the opportunity, they spend $1 million on the second phase of the engineering. I think our mistake there is we went ahead and shortened ourselves up. We should have went for the home run, right down the center, first shot, but hey, I give everybody an A for trying, there's no doubt about it.
You turned the meeting around on January 24th, you know that, don't you?
Yeah, but you can see though, that was
Yeah.
what the people had wanted. I had said it there, hey,
Yep.
they're all here tonight, let them
we-
make the decision.
We were focused on just that first contract, and as Bob Daler said at the meeting, we were too timid. And so I'll stick with Bob's words on that.
I just wish that
Yeah.
application could be in a couple of months earlier, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna, I mean, I just feel we're gonna get something out of that.
Yep.
We are where we are now.
Mike, if you
That's
can.
it, that's it.
And,
Is that right?
you know,
No, that's Butch.
we've
Butch?
made
Sorry, Butch Susan.
grant applications, we've done all that. It was the sense, we had a public meeting to get the public input, and the overwhelming sentiment was, instead of, you know, working to go to the town meeting for $8 million and do just a little piece of it, you know, we should go to the town meeting with the entire project and look for that. That was the decision, and so now we're stuck with the fact that we have to now perform
Do the trick.
in a very short period of time to get the people out to vote for that. And not only the people who are going to be served and be directly benefited, and the businesses are gonna be benefited,
Citizens.
but you know, the large portion of the town that won't see services and their benefits are more indirect. So it is a short time, a big sell, and, you know, we're gonna take our best shot we can at getting this done. Because when the schedule isn't there, but when you look at the schedule, we have, round numbers, we've got $1.5 million or so in our pocket. That's what we have to spend, and we're undertaking a $31 million project. And the fact that we're actually applying for permits, we're actually taking contract documents and going out to bid, you know, we're doing that so that if the voters say yes, we're ready to act.
But if the voters say no, right, and it doesn't happen on that end, right, June still comes up, we can still put out for the mass grant. The time frame is the construction of Route 6, that's the time frame. Jimmy's not here, but Jimmy said he was holding them off on the sidewalk deal.
Yeah.
So they can be held off a little bit as far as that goes. So if April don't work, May don't work, we got mass grants in June.
Yeah, we'll keep going. The town of Westport has to sign off before they do Route 6. Don't think they're gonna throw that in.
Gotcha, good.
We gotta
So
sign off on the sidewalks and everything.
Yep.
Butchie, go ahead.
Susan.
Mr. Souza.
So I got a question for you, Steve. So
Yeah.
you said before we tried that with the water. I don't know, I didn't kind of hear what you said. You said you tried that about the water before or something like that?
Yeah.
What'd you mean by that?
At town meeting?
You're talking about years ago?
20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Okay, so you don't think society has changed? You don't think hang on.
I'm
I'm not done with the question. So you don't,
Let him go.
so you don't think that the grand scope of how people think nowadays are different than it was 20 years ago? Because everybody wants to feel the green deal and this and whatnot. And I'm not saying everything works, but I will say that I think that from a sales point of it, selling it to the people and explaining it to the people that it's better for every. I'm the furthest thing from a trigger hugger that ever walked this earth. So I'm telling you right now that I got no.
Watch out, Michael's gonna tell
I
you.
don't care. Right up. So, you know, I will say this, like, I have kids that are gonna have kids.
Right.
I think that, you know, I remember when they chased the farm next to my grandfather's old farm, Pimentel's farm, and they tortured that man to the tune of $400,000, and that was 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And what did it prove? Nothing. They started testing, and it wasn't him that was the issue. It was farther north that was the issue. It was all these houses, and again, those houses were put in years ago, and it was when the factory was built, and that's what needed to happen then, because we were a society that wasn't as educated as we are now. And I'm not saying too much education is any better, because sometimes it's not. But I will say this, that the common sense approach now for clean water, sewer, to get this to the people, and I don't care, we're gonna get fights from every different household, from whatever they feel that, you know, they don't wanna spend more money. I think it broke down to us last meeting, it was $96 or something like that per year, I forget what it was, per year was gonna cost us. What the hell is $96? I mean, a cup of Dunkin' Donuts coffee is $3, you know? I mean, if you really think about that in the grand scheme of things, that I think clean water slogan, whoever's gonna come up with that slogan, and it should, you know, there's gonna be something behind the slogan. There's gonna be somebody gonna stand at the mic and answer.
Right.
like a 7-year-old can understand it. Not in long terms, not with, not, it's gotta be spelled out, so the blue collar guy, who's tougher for that guy and that family to reach in their pocket, is gonna be able to go toe to toe with the white collar people, the blue buds, the pocket money people that it'll never affect them at all. But let's face it, a member of this board gave me an education not long ago when he said it was $31,000 extra per septic system when he sold 2 pieces of property. And a very wise thing he said, Mr. Catino, if you don't mind me saying that, he said, you can bet that it's gonna be 40,000 more when it starts to go down the road.
Right.
He's 100% right, 'cause that man is always, I like to say he is as smooth and steady. He says it, and you can always take it to the bank, and I appreciate that, because that's old school, that's what Westport's losing. We have a lot of new people in this town,
Yeah.
and I get it, and we have to open this town up for other people. But I will tell you this, the clean water thing, what it's gonna do for this town, and again, I'm the furthest person from like that thinking mindset at all. But I will tell you that for north, south, east, west, and everything in between, that needs to be painted the picture clearly to these people and simply to these people. Not with big terms, these big numbers are gonna scare the hell out of everybody, but if it gets broke, it needs to be broken down in simple numbers.
You're gonna be on the loop, you and Robbie are gonna be on the loop that's continuously going on this.
Jerry, just so you know,
Manny.
1-bedroom septic, Gifford Road, 2 months ago, $42,000. Okay. So those 300 homes in the Macumber neighborhood, because I'm liking to call it the Macumber neighborhood instead of the Macumber.
Yeah, you're
Loop.
expanding, because 300's a lot.
I counted them.
129 is
Okay.
Macumber Loop.
The
129.
Macumber Loop was a mistake, because when I said we gotta bring water into the Macumber,
Yeah.
it meant this whole neighborhood that the Bread and Cheese Brook cuts right through. And
The Bread and Cheese Brook keeps going,
So the
okay.
benefit to the south
Yeah.
is the environmental improvement of these 300 homes on, every septic in there is not Title V compliant, 300 of them, I counted them.
Yeah.
But there's also a tax to be made on this as far as the town goes, money.
Well, it's gonna go like in an enterprise fund so we can keep rolling, Robbie. It's not gonna be going all to the town, the general fund.
It's not the general, no. We
No.
have we have 163 water customers now, and that's all taken care of by the Waterline Enterprise Fund.
But how about the sewer?
We have to establish, the Board of Selectmen has to establish an enterprise fund.
Enterprise fund, you gotta.
And the town meeting
Well, in
does,
that
the town meeting.
enterprise fund, can we add some funding for the town itself?
It's just administrative
We-
fees
we-
and whatnot.
we've-
That's
talked
all you can
about-
get out of it?
Pretty much. I mean, we'll look into it. But we wanna survive, we wanna keep going, and we wanna try to keep the rates reasonable. I mean, keep in mind, the sewer isn't free every month or every quarter, you gotta pay a bill. So, I mean, everybody here, Butchie, I don't wanna sound too negative, but when I said the clean water thing, you go to a lot of town meetings, last time that was the argument. We're not getting clean water, we're getting chemically treated water.
I
It was,
love my artesian well, was that girl's.
yeah, and that's what they said.
I forget that.
I got my beautiful artesian well. And
That's
at least
exactly
two
right.
people stood up saying that. So you got to prepare for that angle. We need it. Obviously, the water's going to be cleaner down the other end. We're trying to sell it. 3 of us are on economic development too.
And I got one more thing to add to that. Like,
Yeah.
my nephew just bought all this stuff to add to his septic system.
Yeah.
His cost was $19,000 for that tank.
Yeah.
For that nitrogen tank.
Yeah.
He's all said and done, he did it himself because he's that guy, right? He's
Yeah.
a dirt guy and he can get it done, right? He blew me away this week. He told me it was $275, and I think it's 3 times a year for the first 2 years that you're gonna add to that, to have that system monitored by the company that's warranting it for the first 2 years. Because after that, they're down the river, and there's sensors, and there's this, and there's that. You know, when these people figure out
He's gonna test their water.
what junk is gonna go wrong with that, if they can't make a goddamn TV controller that lasts,
Yeah.
right? How are they gonna make something that's in the water, in the ground, in the elements, they taking frost, this, that, and the other thing? That, and then the Joe homeowner is gonna be the person holding the bag. Joe, and the problem is the older homeowners, because I can tell you right now that my parents, well, my father's dead,
Yeah.
but my mother is just getting hammered every time she turns around with bills. And these older people in this town can't afford this. Yeah, I know I'm preaching to the choir, I know I'm probably running off at the mouth, but you know, it's just frustrating to watch.
No, it's fine because we need the people at home to realize they're probably thinking the same thing. Go ahead, Manny.
And I want to mention that to Jerry about that. So that senior that just paid $42,000 on Gifford Road they're 80 years old. a little bit over 80 years old. So one of the things that he did tell me, and they paid for it, you know, they paid the $42,000. It was $4,500 to design it. They have those monitoring fees, and their electric bill went up $50 a month.
Yeah, okay, let's keep moving, guys. What do we have next? Do we have to?
One more point on that, though.
Get the motion.
So that septic system, it doesn't do what the sewer does for the total nitrogen load of the river, because the sewer system, all of those houses, now the load out of the house is 0. That septic is nitrogen reducing. It's,
I would just add one thing to that very quickly, and that is that it's not going to get any cheaper. When these things start to have to be done, you only have so many engineers that can engineer the things. You only have so many people who are going to install them. Price is going to go up and up and up, and it's bad.
Just
we
like
we have a town loan fund, but that's no picnic either. It spreads the thing out just like this betterment fee, but it hits your pocketbook, I can tell you.
Yeah, we do have that. Go ahead, Mr. Thrasher.
So just briefly, talking about outreach plans here, I will say, first of all, I'm elated to join you all after all the work that has been put into this, because this is the single most important project for the economic vitality and environmental sustainability of our town. There's no question. As far as selling it goes, I think that, I do agree that now, especially in the wake of the Title V, the septic regulations that were tried to put through earlier last year, this is fresh in people's mind, and I do think the clean water approach is going to go a long way to selling it. I did want to ask the town administrator. So you did mention that it is prohibited to spend town funds to advocate for a ballot question. Does that include, say, putting out something that is, educational and as neutral as possible? Absolutely neutral, but okay. But just, there seems to me, and perhaps Mr. Sullivan would know some of this. There's plenty of data out there, especially regarding how much the flow from Bread and Cheese Brook has to do with either the nitrogen uptake and whatnot in the river. There's plenty of data out there that can be presented, I think, and so perhaps it may behoove us to use some of that earmark to create some materials that actually lay out the issue without advocating for it. Especially if the earmark is there.
We got the TDL counts. We lost our professional on that, Mr. Cole. But
well, they actually they use that data
to
do the mandate for the denitrification systems that are all on every one of these houses.
You're right.
300 of them.
You are right. Go ahead.
I do have to leave, but I know we as an organization, Westport River Watershed Alliance, I know BBC is going to be contributing to this effort. So those are funds that are not restricted in how they're used. So we intend to promote the project.
Excellent. We need the help, that's for sure. We really appreciate it. Okay. All right, thank you. Do you want to add something?
Didn't want to speak first.
Thanks, I appreciate it. So I'll join Westport. Corin Peterson with the Buzzards Bay Coalition. So we intend full steam ahead to advocate with our members and voters in town to support this project. Sewer by far is the best way to reduce nitrogen pollution to the river, and so we're going to continue to help the town however we can and advocate for the passage of this.
Thank you.
Corin, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you at Buzzards Bay have a promotional video in the works for this project?
We do not.
Okay.
We don't.
Whoa is going to do something, right? We're going to put something together. Okay, because we're trying to do as much as we can, and the yard sign is going to be big too, because a lot of people don't know what's going on yet. All right, did we have to make a motion on anything?
So we have some business to do here, because we have 3 motions that we should vote on, and this is call it housekeeping, but we have to vote on a betterment policy. Motion 2 and 3 are easier, but number 1, are we ready to vote on a betterment policy?
So it's not so much the betterment policy, right? We need to vote on the betterment, betterment methodology, that's correct.
So we presented to the Board of Selectmen a week and a half ago the outline of the policy, but we had not met, and so we couldn't recommend it formally.
So the policy does not have to be done yet, right?
Okay.
That can be done after town meeting. we need the board to approve the method, the unit method, and the percentage rate of distribution between
The allocation.
betterments. Yes, the allocation.
All right, so.
I'm not sure we're prepared tonight to propose an allocation.
Well, I think
We can,
need
we can say between
tie it around
15 and, you know, and 25 for the betterment and, you know, 75 and 80 for the general.
So the articles are closing, right? The Board of
Yeah.
Selectmen are closing, the Select Board's closing the warrant articles. I'd suggest putting a number in. We still have some time to amend it if you had to going forward, but I would suggest
20, 80,
80/20.
80, 20. Yeah, okay.
And 20 is the betterment charge, 80 is the general
Taxation.
taxation.
So you got that, do we still need that formula that Roger presented to go to the selectmen, or are we just gonna go with 80/20?
So the betterment, the warrant article just says, see if the town will authorize the select board to assess sewer betterment assessments pursuant to chapter law, general chapter law, in connection with the Route 6 sewer project by a rate based upon the uniform unit method, blah, 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 and then assess 20% of the cost of the said sewer project upon those who benefit from the project. And then we just listed 30 days, and there'll be a 5% billing after 30 days.
That's what we need to send forward?
I make that as a motion.
So 20 is a little on the low side if you start crunching these numbers, because we don't know what EDUs are going to get down to. And, you know,
You gotta have.
basically $10,000 times 650 EDUs is $6.5 million, and it's more like 21% of 31 million.
Right, so the betterments turn out to be $9,700 instead of $10,000.
It will be a little less than 10,000. Yeah, okay. So we do 2080, okay.
You made a motion, and we second it?
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right. Discussion on the motion, the 2080. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous? Okay. Chris, were you gonna say something?
I just had a point of clarification. So the policy itself does not need to be ready until when?
Really doesn't have to be ready for a while, but after town meeting, and it would be approved by the sewer commissioners or the select board acting as the sewer commissioners.
Okay.
And we'd be able to get the question, do you know if that's the only question on the ballot? So when you do these yard signs or whatever, we can say vote
So
yes
the-
on one?
As far as I know, that's the only question. I'll check with Kristen and get back to the committee.
And we'll know the right wording, so we're not saying yes when it should be no?
I have the wording. It's gonna be, we just reviewed it today with town council.
All right, because the sooner we know, 6 weeks till the ballot or
The
whatever.
board
it
has
is.
to approve it Monday night.
Okay, so just so everybody understands
That's
that,
the ballot question.
we'll be addressing it on Monday night selectmen meeting, move that forward. All right, any other discussion on that? Okay, you gonna go to the other two?
Yeah, the other two are that we need to set up a sewer enterprise fund. So we have to recommend that the select board collaborate with FinCom to create a sewer enterprise fund, which will then be presented for authorization at the annual town meeting. And I will make that motion.
Second by
second
Mr. Dale, discussion on it. You're expecting this, correct, Jim? Yeah, I know you're involved with most of this.
Yeah.
So at this point, it would just, I think we can just do it with a town meeting warrant article.
But we close the warrant, the selectmen are gonna have to open it to add it. We don't have a place block for that, do we?
Well, it's all part of the sewer.
We can do it as like a sub-question or whatever?
Yes, yeah, we can get it in there.
All right, we understand that. Okay, any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
And that
Unanimous?
warrant article would just create the sewer enterprise fund.
Okay. And the third thing?
And the third thing is to recommend to the select board that they appoint themselves as sewer commissioners, which will then be presented for authorization at the annual town meeting. The select board today are the water commissioners for the water line,
Not sewer, okay.
but sewer is different, and we need to have them appoint themselves as sewer commissioners.
My one question, does this motion need to have any kind of term or any kind of timeline language in it, or is it
Well,
just?
it'd be the selectmen to determine it. We're just advising them to do it.
Fair.
We can't. Dan?
I mean, couldn't we create a Department of Public Infrastructure, would say 3 members to be appointed by the selectmen?
Well, that goes a step further to the
I mean,
commissioners.
We're funding a town engineer,
Yeah.
So we could create a Department of Public Infrastructure, have the selectmen appoint three people with qualifications in town to oversee the town engineer versus, I mean, the selectmen, I'm one of them, but we don't seem to be doing too well with the water enterprise fund.
So that's not on the agenda tonight. And I would never suggest having a board of 3 people.
Or 5 people, make it 5.
I was on a board of 3 people, and legally, we couldn't talk to each other,
that's
except
true.
on TV, you know?
All right, so
So
what?
5,
So we
please.
just want to recommend to the selectmen that they do a sewer commission? Or, go ahead, Jerry.
Well, I have the same idea, I think. This doesn't mean forever.
No,
I think
just
this
get
is a
going.
placeholder.
Correct.
Yes.
And then the select board, over time, could decide a whole
Yes.
different
At
system.
some point, they
or
will,
whatever. So
I think,
I
do
see no
that,
problem.
Yeah, we need a whole division sooner or
Yeah,
later.
but if
Maybe.
they recommend, if we're recommending to the select board now, and we do, when it comes in front of the select board at the next meeting, why don't we recommend that they,
Form a sewer commission.
only because, you know, I've been, can I finish?
Yeah.
I've been in this industry my entire life, okay? So I grew up in the town of Somerset that was sewered when I was young.
Yeah.
I worked in that town. I knew the superintendent till he retired. His brother, who I went to first grade, was the superintendent in Dartmouth. So one of the problems, I asked him to have a sewer and water commission. And when it was run by the selectmen, it was a disaster.
Yeah. Well,
They
it's extra
created
stuff
the
on our
sewer
plate,
water
too.
commission, and, you know, they've done 3 upgrades in the treatment plant since it's been built, and stuff like that. It's just, we're not doing, you know, how are we making out with the water?
So Manny, that's the second step
Waiting
you
on
guys
forward.
got to take. But the first step is to have some sewer commissioners, and that's what this motion
All right,
proposes.
so what do you want to do? Leave it the same, or do you just want to suggest forming a sewer commission?
I suggest forming a sewer commission.
So there's 2 options, right? One, the select board can be almost the same process, appointed as the sewer commission or the sewer
Correct.
commissioners. Or we could have a separate elected board or appointed sewer commission, that would be separate.
Town meeting have to do that?
So town meeting has to approve the warrant article, and it kind of sets it up, and then it has to go on the ballot in next April. Not this April, next
Yeah, we'll
April.
make
Whether,
sure.
whether it's the selectmen or the appointed.
So we'd have
I
to do it
think it's,
temporarily
I
anyways.
think it's, honestly, I think it's cleaner if the selectmen do it now, and then,
Right.
you know, it's gonna
Yeah,
take a
sure.
couple of years to even get this thing constructed, if we go out starting this summer, and we would have time to change over to an elected
Yeah.
commissioners. We could do that at next year's town meeting and the following election.
Or appointed, it could be appointed.
It says
Yeah.
appointed or elected.
This vote doesn't
start out as
preclude any of that. So-
You
No.
could, but you can't appoint them yet, so the selectmen are gonna be the commissioners until it's
Till we do
It's
finalized.
it.
it's just a question of timing right now, so we don't have, there's no mechanism right now to have
An appointed commission.
full commission
Right.
right now.
Yeah, we don't.
So going into next town meeting, you can, in the project will,
Oh, we can appoint it once we got up.
change.
If you have an enterprise fund, you need someone to use it. So you know, I think this, you know, it as a placeholder, I think this is something that we should get done.
Yeah, it's a recommendation, we can
And
change
and
it.
if
Go
and
ahead.
if we go with the Department of Public Infrastructure, we could bump sewer and water into the same department.
Right.
And
Could,
and
done.
hire an engineer that they oversee the engineer that we have.
I wish we could have had a DPW, but we already been down that road a few times. All right, for now, it's just a recommendation. Did you-
So I have made a motion.
Hang on.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
If the motion has been made, I would actually like to amend the motion. I would just say that recommend the select board appoint themselves as commissioners for a term through town meeting 2000, the annual town meeting 2025. I would feel more comfortable if there was just a timeline put in there to begin with, and then it can be decided where to go
I'd
from
have to
there.
check with town council to see if we could do that, but that could be a recommendation from this committee, and the board of
Either way.
selectmen's actually gonna vote
I
on it.
I would recommend town meeting of 2026, just to, if you want to go that route.
By that date?
Because it's going to take us a while to get a real concern going here, and we need, I think, the support of the
All right.
Board of Selectmen.
So you made
Well,
a
you're
motion,
gonna have the
correct?
support of the Board of Selectmen, they're gonna appoint him, and you're gonna hire an engineer. I mean, so if we go to Board of Selectmen, that means Jimmy's, who's gonna be doing all the work? I mean, why do we wanna keep burdening him? Let's get somebody that can be dedicated to it. We're looking to get the engineer to be dedicated. What are we waiting for?
All
We have
right,
a design.
Okay, well,
It's not a study.
I'll go along with the, what do you want to do, Manny? You want to join
I wanna
him?
create a department
You
of
want, you,
infrastructure, like, since we put the money aside for the engineer, we're gonna just leave that sitting over there, let's go to work.
Are you suggesting that part could be stretched to do that now, or should we do this as a
Well,
placeholder?
right now, we're actually negotiating the water contract with the city of Fall River.
Yeah,
And we have some issues that have gone back for, I don't know, 10 years maybe, and we're going back and forth. But if we have a Department of Public Infrastructure, and we hire this engineer that we're allocating money for, I mean, they got work already to start on. I mean, we're going forward with grants, and we're gonna create the sewer enterprise fund. We already have the water enterprise fund. They already got something to take over.
so you're saying in practice, it's possible to do that now?
I think so.
Well, this department would have to be, the select board would have to create this
Correct.
immediately, right? Okay. And so you're not necessarily talking about asking town meeting this time around for an elected board?
Right.
We could be
You're saying it could be
yeah.
appointed, yeah, okay.
All right,
Kind
so,
of like what we are.
all right, what do we want to do, folks? What do you want to do? You want to modify the motion? How do you want to?
I would stick just with the motion as it is, but that we would revisit it sometime before town meeting in 2025. I'll go along with, Chris.
Well, I mean,
If it's
this
legal,
is a
I don't even
recommendation
know.
to the selectmen, and you already got one selectman, and I'm on the fence about it too, about doing so it might get modified by the selectmen, but this
Yeah.
is still a recommendation. All right, so you're changing,
So should we,
you're modifying yours to include till the town meeting of 26?
or 25 or 26? I don't know.
Let me know what we're doing. so
Okay, let's do the 25.
25?
Okay, so what is this motion here? Recommend the select board appoint themselves as sewer commissioners for 1 year, and then, by which time they would have appointed a 5-member water and sewer commission.
Is that part of the motion, that last part?
I don't know,
He's
help me
adding-
with the
I don't think so.
motion, help me with the
Yeah.
motion here.
I don't think, because, again, this is just a
I'm not
recommendation.
gonna vote in favor of that.
Oh, you're not?
This is just a recommendation to the selectmen, so they can do whatever they want to
And
with this.
Selectmen can't appoint themselves, right? So
Right.
it's town meeting that would designate them as commissions.
Okay. But that's the first step.
All right, so do we even need it, or do we need it? Jim, what's your thoughts on this?
We need a town meeting warrant article, either appointing the selectmen as sewer commissioners or appointing
Public.
appointed committee or an elected committee.
So that we need,
But
Yes.
just to be clear, until the ballot question follows up, they're not officially sewer commissioners. The selectmen will be acting in their capacity as selectmen overseeing the sewer project until commissioners are actually approved at the ballot. It's a two-part approval. Once a sewer commissioner is either appointed or a selectman, whoever it is at the ballot question, the way it was explained to us was they may have a little bit more authority as to what they can do over what the selectmen can until the selectmen or the appointed group is actually appointed and voted on at ballot.
I think the motion as it's drafted does what you need to do, and you have a warrant article.
Yeah.
It's our recommendation to have the selectmen appoint themselves as the sewer commissioners, period. But that's the warrant article, and then, if we subsequently get town meeting actions, we hire the engineer, all those things happen. You form a department. I'm not opposed to that. I just want to get something done so that we have the warrant article.
to cover
If
us.
this all passes,
Yeah, we get it.
with this all passes, we have some sewer commissioners to sign a contract.
Right.
To that point, that is why I would I would want the 1 year term in there, just because if it does need to be renewed every town meeting, I think until such time as something like an elected board was put up, it should be renew.
And if you want to put that in the recommendation, I'll run it by town council, and for Monday night's meeting, I can have both options, and the board can, they'll have your recommendation. and the board
All right,
can
so
do
you
it.
made the motion, or you?
Well,
So-
a little more discussion. I can agree to that, and I agree with you, Bob. But moving forward, since we already have the water enterprise fund, and now we're gonna have the water commissioners, we're already water commissioners, and we're gonna be sewer commissioners. As I was stating before, the Department of Public Infrastructure, if we're gonna create something, we're not gonna create water commissioners and sewer commissioners. We're gonna create Department of Public Infrastructure. So when we move forward, that's what we should be doing, because that's gonna handle, when we have the engineer, we got stormwater, we got all of that kind of things that can be rolled into that department.
Yeah, I mean, maybe after this passes, we won't even have to be a committee anymore, it's gonna be whoever the sewer commissioners are, so there you go. All right, so are you modifying, or?
So, I trust the select board, you and others on the select board, to set up or to promote or propose a commission that's not part of the select board, and also an infrastructure department. But why don't we just do this one step tonight and make it simple?
I can
Because,
agree with that.
you know, you're bringing a whole bunch of other things, and you want to term limit it all.
As far as, we've
And-
needed an engineer a couple of years ago.
We- we-
We probably wouldn't, we'd be a lot further. if
We've
we had
needed an engineer.
And I'm not, we have a great engineer that's volunteers. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
we need the day-to-day.
We agree, there's a lot of stuff we need. All right, so what are you doing?
So I would stick with my original motion, which is this, that the select board appoint themselves.
All right,
as-
Bob's second remains.
Okay.
There was no modification to the motion. Any other discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye, you got
Is it
your votes,
unanimous?
okay.
Yeah. It's unanimous? Okay, it's unanimous.
It will happen because, you know, as
One more
Manny
thing,
says,
all right,
the
so
Board of
another thing.
Selectmen
Go ahead.
can't spend the time on this.
With the betterment, right, we can include a local option, a senior deferral option, if chosen. The town can adopt a local option, which would allow seniors eligible for property tax deferral to also defer the betterment assessment costs.
That could be in the rules and regulations, right, that we're
It's gotta
talking
be-
about?
No, it's gotta
No,
be
it's gonna be the.
town
Huh?
meeting.
Town meeting's gonna vote on
That could not be,
In the rules and
it. And this is
regulations.
your numbers.
okay.
So,
I think that's a very good idea.
That's the
Particularly-
greatest idea since we started.
And particularly in the service area that we're applying.
So I would recommend that. We talked about that today. There is another option which I would not recommend, which would allow seniors eligible for property tax deferral so they don't have to pay the monthly sewer user fees. They could defer that. The problem with that is on this project, we're gonna be struggling to get enough capacity in monthly user fees just to cover the operating and maintenance costs. And if we defer those fees, I think it's going to be problematic on a monthly basis for, you know. So I would not
Well-
recommend that one, but the first one I think.
We're already, you know, marking up Fall River water by 25%. We started 20 years ago marking it up 10% to get the enterprise fund going, and now we're marking it up 25. And it stays steady at around 300 and 350. So it means that it's a good cushion, but it also means that it's in balance, and that 25% markup is proper.
Does the-
We're going to have to do the same thing for sewer.
So I would
Mr. Clerk,
recommend the
did you
first
get that
option and not the
motion? Did you
second.
get that motion?
Is there a motion?
Yes.
Okay, so what's the next motion?
To recommend to the Board of Selectmen, the town adopt the option that would allow seniors eligible for property tax deferral and also allow them to defer the betterment assessment costs.
Second.
Well, he can't make the
So-
motion, he's ex officio.
so
who's
wait a
making the
minute.
motion? Manny, you making the motion?
I'll make
And I'll say
And
that.
Chris is second.
Okay.
Get caught up, and then we'll do the vote, or any other discussion.
I do have one question, Jim, because we are dealing with kind of a finite area. Do we have any kind of hard data as to how many households we're talking about would be under this
Would be
provision?
deferred? I don't know.
Seniors?
Um,
There's some still in seniors'
The
names. but
deferral
not
is
there.
still a deferral, that, you know, there's an interest charge they
Yeah.
pay on it. It's-
This is betterment charge deferral, right?
It would be betterment
And
and
And property?
seniors eligible, yes, betterment assessment costs, yes.
And would this would be with the same interest rate as any other?
Be the 5%.
The 5%, okay.
That we're charging.
And that would be put on the property as a tax lien, right?
I don't know the exact procedure, but I'm assuming it's very similar to that, yes. If it's-
Because betterments are actually not on the person, they're on the property. So it would be a tax lien by the assessor department on the property for when it's sold. Okay.
That would
And-
definitely help them stay in their homes.
Is there any provision in Massachusetts statute where the interest rate could be different for this as opposed to?
Well, property taxes.
The way it was explained to us, and I hope Roger can help me out here, is it's part of the betterment policy, we're gonna have a 5% interest. There are other options, a lot of it it gets more complicated. You know, he was
There's
trying to
ways-
explain it to us, I couldn't quite understand it.
Well, there's waivers and everything once you get to income and all that
And,
good stuff.
you know, you could have special legislation
Yeah.
to set things up. Some communities do that, but that takes time, right? That's a year or two.
So,
This
so,
is the cleanest and most direct, way. I think it's a fair way as well.
so what's a senior, age 65?
No, if it's the,
It's a good question.
No,
Whoever's
you said-
eligible for the tax deferral.
yeah, whoever's eligible for the tax.
It
The
still
age-
has to go
age
through
of
the process
65?
to apply for that
Yes,
as well,
yes.
so.
You have to meet the requirements.
So this is a way of
Oh, it's-
having people receive the
70.
benefits, but not
I think it's 60.
the sting of the cost.
Right.
Do we know the age? Is it 65?
I don't know.
I thought it was higher than 65, because Mr. Cole was trying to knock it down to 65, I thought. I thought it was 70. Nobody knows in here, right? I'm not positive.
I know I'd be qualified.
Well, Mr. Cole qualifies.
I'm not qualified yet.
I believe it was changed to 67.
Yeah, it might be, I thought it was a little higher than 65.
Well, that's the social security age
All
now,
right,
67.
let's keep it moving.
There's a motion on the floor.
Question.
Yeah.
What interest rate were you just referring to?
5%.
For what?
So that would be for the deferral. If you're deferring the betterments, there would be a 5% interest charge to that for the seniors.
For that property?
Yeah, and for the betterments themselves, if you extended it over the 20-year period, there would be a 5% interest charge.
The reason I bring it up is because there was a controversy with the town sewer, excuse me,
Water.
not sewer, the new septic loan. When I first went into the thing, was told 1%. Then when we got to the page, oh, by the way, it's not 1%, it's 2%. So I believe my papers were made up originally for 2%. Then we found out that it's 4% because the town treasurer is the only one authorized to set an interest rate. The Board of Health could not. So I just want to let you know that there's some controversy about interest rates, and so I ended up with 4% instead of 1%. So.
All right, so why don't we clearly explain this, because we're saying that we're gonna defer the betterment, but then we're saying 5%. Why don't we explain what the 5% is, so.
So whatever you're deferring will be assessed at 5% interest.
Mhm.
Do we understand that?
Yeah.
All right, everybody understands it. All right, any other discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Is that unanimous?
Is that 6 to
Unanimous.
nothing? Okay.
So there's one more. This is complicated.
Sun's coming up, Jim.
And it's new to me, so I'm trying to explain it is difficult, but
Yeah,
if a community has a comprehensive water resource management plan,
yep.
We have a targeted, integrated.
which sounds like it may qualify, right?
Yes, it
So
does.
If it does, and I am not recommending this, but I do need to present it anyway, the town could force everybody to tie in immediately. I don't, where people have just put in brand-new septic systems, and, somebody may have money this year, or they're planning on money in a few years, I don't necessarily think it's fair, but that, I would not recommend it, but that's up to this committee to.
Are we forcing? I don't think we've got it, man.
We,
I mean, that's what's come up with my situation, with the septics moving forward. I mean, we currently have a we're the only seniors in town that have a time limit on their cesspools. This neighborhood right here is essentially the same thing, because I'm gonna tell you, 90% of them, when they go to sell, they're not gonna pass Title V. So, we have to do something so that they're at least grandfathered like the rest of the state, because we're the only state that has this for cesspools. They, you can't really, I mean, you look at all these undersized lots, so they're not gonna meet Title V. So the Board of Health created this regulation, which is a Westport Board of Health regulation. So we have to do something so that clicks, you know, say we do the trunk line, this, in the Macumber neighborhood doesn't get sewered for 5 years after that. And, you know, you gotta let these people know, say, well, if you sell your house, you're gonna have to upgrade your septic, but when we come by, we're gonna make you put it in, but if you're forced to upgrade your septic, what happens to those people?
Set it
Well,
for 5 years.
There's a couple ways to look at this. I think, first of all, we can put a blanket in, like two years. You know, if sewer's in front of your house, you have to connect within 2 years. Or you can use a mechanism that the Board of Health used in their regulation, which they can't do because they're not water commissioners, but they did it, and that was you could get a deferral based upon the age of your septic system. And if you just put in a septic system, you know, you would have a certain number of years to hook up to sewer. So those are a couple ways to handle it. I mean, the Board of Health way was not legal because they're not water commissioners, but or sewer commissioners for that matter.
But just getting back to this, I just wanted to bring it to your attention that it's an option that's out there. We'd also have to confirm that our plan was approved by DEP and is considered a comprehensive water resource.
Yeah.
Comprehensive plan. You know, I think the property owners are gonna be burdened enough with just the betterment charges. Have them, force them to tie in immediately, I think is maybe too much. And
Plus they
could
gotta get
also
rid of their
probably
septic system. It's
the
gonna cost
support,
money.
you know, that would reduce some of the support for the project, so I would recommend it against it. I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
We're gonna
Okay.
have that same situation anyway, because, I mean, you know, it's gonna take us time to hook these people in, so, you know, give us.
Well, Mandy, that neighborhood right next to where you live is it, what is it called, Kyle Jacob?
Yep.
It's a newer development, isn't it?
So that's.
How old are those septics there? 5 years?
Correct, but there's still septic systems.
I know. So would you make all those people tie in if the sewer
Well,
went?
if the sewer got to there, I mean, that's the whole benefit of sewer in the north end of town.
Yeah.
Is the environmental benefit to the river. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's why they're pushing for denitrification systems.
Yep.
We got the same thing on the
I mean,
pond.
I'm gonna tell you, that neighborhood right there, so that's not one of, I think there's maybe 40 houses in there, not even that, but they all have water problems. So they will support that.
You mean they have well problems?
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
So,
Jim, this is not a one-time, like this needs to be a warrant article, right? And but we can come back to this next year, at the next year's
I
town
would
meeting,
assume
correct?
so, I don't know that for certain.
That's my one question, is this a one-and-done option?
Yeah, I'm not gonna, is anybody forcing it right now, so can we stop?
No,
No, yeah.
All right, Robert, go ahead.
But yeah, I can make a little suggestion on it. My original thought on that was if it went by your house, you know, even like along phase one of this situation, if you take a good look over there, a lot of those folks do got new septic systems. I talked to them about it, and they said, oh, you're gonna bring it now? Is that right? No. And so what I would say is once it passes by your property, you got 5 years to tie in. I mean, that sounds pretty fair to me.
We'll see, yeah, well, Dartmouth didn't give you a choice when they went by, you had to do it.
But it's a better selling pitch. That's kind of what we're gonna be after.
Yes.
My biggest question here is if we don't set a time limit right now, can we go back and set one down the road? That is.
I don't see why not, but I'd have to confirm with town council.
Yeah, I mean, the sewer commission's still gonna put, well, infrastructure, whatever it's called, is gonna bring forward.
But they're gonna wanna know that when we get there in May and April.
Well, and also Fall River wants the load, so we gotta figure out, they gotta have a certain amount.
What about the time limit that we have on the septics now? I mean, I guess they gave another 2-year extension.
This didn't pass yet, man, they still have to
No,
do it.
that's cesspools, they moved from 2026 to 2028.
Yeah, we
Cesspool.
So at this
the
point, we're
state.
gonna pass over.
Yes,
this-
nobody wants to move that at this time. Is that it, Leah?
That's all I got.
All right, let's go on to the next thing. Let's get a permit update, please.
Well, we actually had it already, so we can scratch
So
that
we're good on
off.
the permit update?
So we're ready to adjourn, folks.
Roger's good? Roger, you got all your stuff?
Just one other thing.
Go ahead, man.
Did we get the notice intent filed for the trunk line?
Roger said that before, go ahead.
Notifications are going out, getting prepared.
Because I seen the one for phase one, which that's gonna be ignored, and we're gonna handle this thing all at once.
Yes.
Gotcha, so we'll be expecting a NOI on that.
Either way, does that have to be ignored, or we gotta actually start somewhere, so you could actually be
We could have done
permitted
it
to
both
move
ways,
it?
right? But what we're doing now is,
Withdrawing the first?
we're not gonna withdraw it, they're gonna continue one, we're gonna file for 2 and 3, and they're gonna combine one with 2 and 3.
All right,
So they'll be all heard at the same time?
Yes.
Gotcha.
okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Warren Peterson, Buzzards Bay Coalition. So this goes back to the discussion you all had about mid-meeting about outreach and education to the community.
Yeah.
When are those dates and locations going to be set, and by who?
Walter wants to interview us. I don't know if you're putting something together. Manny's doing the yard sale signs. We're going to start interviews soon. I think Walter wants to ask questions tomorrow. I think it's going to be via Zoom or something. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it because I got to work, but they're actually starting now.
But is this committee going to host an
Yes.
outreach? And when are those dates going to be set?
As soon as I can get the video people together. See that young lady back there? See what we can do. But either that or Irene Buck's going to interview us. But we're going to put little clips together. We want to make it so that people are paying attention out there. We get to the point. I'm trying not to drag it out 10 minutes, like a 2 or 3 minute thing. Get to the points. Have different people that have different niches. Like Bob knows a lot more than we do on some things. Everybody has a little niche on the committee. So they could, whoever wants to say a little spiel can say it. I'm gonna post it on YouTube. I locked up that website, helpwestport.com, to help to link it. That can link to whatever else happens, but it's just a point that we can move forward with.
Great, that all sounds wonderful. Are you going to do another public meeting that public can come and ask questions?
March 13th, correct, is our next meeting. And it's only a few weeks away.
Yeah, do you want to do that up at the auditorium again?
I don't know, if we think we're gonna get a good turnout, the location may change. I really wanted to do Matt Cumber, but you're kinda all at the same level, and they don't have the video equipment to go live. I'd rather have it in the neighborhood. One second, would you? So, but right now it's March 13th here.
Why don't we have the next meeting up there in the north end?
We've got 5 people here tonight. I mean, it's, we can try. I mean, it's still-
Manny, can you get 100 people out?
Butchie, go to Mike, please.
I'm sure I could. Lauren, would you like to be included in their interview?
You are putting something together, right?
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Let me think about it.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure the public had an opportunity to come and talk to you people.
Yeah. I don't know if we sent it to you too, but we're putting it together. Go ahead.
So I'll go back to what was said earlier tonight, is that, older people do not, not everybody, but most don't go on YouTube, most don't know that bullshit.
Stuff.
Put it up.
Stuff.
Yes, stuff, sorry, I forgot what I was saying.
What about a brochure we put in people's doors?
What about getting it on cable on 190? Because like I tell
190
you,
is down.
It's down.
I understand. So Seabiscuit, but we figured out a way to get another radio.
All right, hang on a second. Let me, we had a cable, Bob and I on cable too, we had the meeting just before this. We are gonna have Mr. Hartnett try to squeeze the cable company as much as possible, because it's been like 2 months.
You need help?
They're ignoring, we're gonna put a contract out on.
The thing, I mean this sincerely,
It's annoying.
For years, I would just, I'm an idiot, I can't even DVR, my wife's gonna do it for me, but she DVRs the selectmen's meetings, and I enjoy being able to go back to that, and yeah, I can go to a computer, but my mother can't.
Yeah.
Right now, it's on, it's on 192 until we get changed over.
Even the selectmen's meeting?
All you need is.
So there you go,
Jesus,
192, there you go.
Thank you, I appreciate
Good thing you asked, we're getting that out to the public. So 192, yeah, because I know 190, 191 is still a problem, we're trying to find out if even if a tech could come just
Yeah,
to change it.
it's such a useful, I mean, it's so useful. It's so
Well, that's why a lot of people have cable, to be honest with you, that's the only
My
reason.
mom being one, right, absolutely, she's, I wanna
I got you.
watch selectmen's meeting, that's what she.
Well, I'm glad you asked, so there's your answer, 190, 192, until we can do something with Spectrum.
A service call.
Yeah, we're gonna put in a ticket to rock and roll, because they're not signing the contract either, Spectrum, so that's a whole different story. Anything else for this meeting? Anything else we need to bring up before I adjourn? Anything from the public?
Yeah, just one thing.
Go ahead.
You should definitely work on that time frame to the tie-in, because they'll definitely want to know that.
I mean, we're gonna try the best we can. I mean, keep in mind, I know everybody's hyped. We have everybody there that's pretty much gonna benefit from this at the auditorium. Now we need to sell it to the other 13 or whatever it is, 7,000 people that are eligible to vote. Some people will go there just so their taxes don't go up. You need to realize that. So you need to get it out there. Unfortunately, everybody doesn't get the newspaper anymore, like Butchie's saying. Shorelines is the only one. Before, everybody got the Herald News. When I made a mistake years ago about putting something on Route 6, it was the headlines, and I got 40 calls right away.
Right.
Unfortunately now, people
Think how
don't do.
popular you were then, though.
Yeah, I know. I was popular, all right. So, anyways, yes, whatever you can think of. You all got numbers. Even go through Manny or whatever. We go through emails every day yelling at each other. So just do what you can do. If you think of anything, we want to get this done.
Yeah.
Okay? Anything else, Dad? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
One last thing.
Right.
We were working on.
Yeah, that's good.
On
That's
the,
what we're here
on the
for.
design for the Mac Hummer, and we didn't, we're gonna use that money for shovel-ready this project as a design. some of that Bristol County money. Where do we stand with that?
It's coming before the Board of Selectmen Monday night.
Okay,
It's on the agenda? All right.
I'm sorry, what's on the agenda?
The Macamaloo
Right.
Neighborhood,
Plus,
AKA.
Oh, God, we're stretching all the way out now.
The Macamaloo Plus.
If you're gonna design.
We need to get the ponds too, that's another
See,
phase. I got
the
you.
thing is, if you're gonna do a design, it's not gonna go bad. You got the survey crew out there, get it done.
I'm not arguing with you, it's my neighborhood too. I just want to, we're gonna have everybody humming at us. All right, anybody want to move motion to adjourn, so we can get out of here? Move. There, moved by Bob, we have a second.
Second.
Seconded by Jerry. Any other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.